Good evening, everybody. You're live in the pits of Motorcast with your host, Dave. I got online with me, Joe Morrison. Hey, Joe, how you doing tonight?
Good evening, Dave. Great to be with you, man.
Good to have you on. So, Joe, when did this all begin? When did you start drag racing?
Oh, goodness. Legally or illegally? No, in all seriousness, my dad was a racer. He raced stock and super stock in the 60s and 70s, and he gave it up when my brother and I were kind of young, but we were always at the track, you know. So, first opportunity I actually, opening day, 1988, I had my 1970 Chevelle 4-speed, and I entered it in the street class at Raceway Park in Englishtown, and actually wound up runner-up that day. My first day ever drag racing with a 4-speed car, nonetheless, and came in runner-up, and the hook was set. That was it. I was done, man. I just wanted to do it.
So what was the first car you started racing?
Yeah, it was the 1970 Chevelle with a N21 wide ratio 4-speed and a Chevy 350 board and stroked out to a 383. So that car was a lot of fun. I ran 13s. It wasn't exactly a rocket ship, but hey, I was a senior in high school, right? So but it was a lot of fun.
So how did it feel to go behind the wheel and get down the track for the first time?
Now I tell you, it was definitely an awesome experience. It hasn't changed. Whether I was driving a 13-second street car, driving the frantic Ford for Rocky Barone, driving my own Alter, driving a 134 Fuel Coupe for Ted Bryan, getting my top alcohol drag-through license, all different cars. But every time, it's time to fire the engine, man, I can't explain the feeling other than it's like I feel like I'm in the right place, and kind of feeling of excitement and peace all at the same time. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's definitely something I absolutely love to do.
Now, when you get behind the wheel in a drag race, you feel younger?
I don't know that I feel younger, but I feel like that time doesn't really apply. That sounds crazy, right? Because drag racing is all about ECs per mile an hour, right? But time kind of stops for me. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah, so I don't know that I feel younger, but I certainly don't feel like I'm getting any older.
Now, when did you start driving nitro methane cars?
I think the first of all things, I think the first time I was ever driving a car, a nitro-powered car, was Jerry Extra out of Bakersfield when I was licensing in that car. That was my first experience being behind the wheel of a nitro car. Obviously grew up, going to Englishtown and all that, but that car is, I'll tell you what, doing 220 miles an hour in, 3.5 seconds at half track, that's a hell of a ride, man. It's a hell of a ride. It puts you in a seat pretty good, and I was comfortable with the car, but I'm looking forward to one day getting my top fuel license. And hey, look, if Dave, if you said, Joe, what in a perfect world, what would you be doing? I'd be running either a nitro funny car or top fuel full time. So that's the goal.
So what year was this when you first started driving that nitro car?
That was in Bakersfield, California, doing licensing runs with Jerry Darian. And for anyone who's not familiar, Jerry Darian is the guy where, Ashley, Brittany, Courtney Forstrode for Jerry Darian, Tony Pedregon, Frankie Pedregon, I believe Larry Dixon, I think Barry Selzy, I think drove for Darian. Anybody who's anybody drove for Jerry, and for good reason. He's an amazing teacher. He's a great tuner. Super nice guy and funny, but more than anything else, I mean, he's royalty as far as I'm concerned.
And what year was it that you started racing for him?
Jerry, other than getting my license in the car.
Oh, okay.
The challenge with that, honestly, is, you have the money to be able to do it. And to race a top alcohol dragster, you know, you got to come up with, you know, somewhere in the neighborhood of, you know, $8,000, $10,000, $12,000 per race. You know, and again, being a guy that, you know, I'm not independently wealthy, you know, so it's always about finding sponsors and that sort of thing. So, you know, fortunately, with the other teams that I work with, it's a matter of being there to work on the cars, being a part of the team, and getting the opportunity to drive. You know, guys that I'm eternally grateful to. You know, like I said, Rocky Perone, very grateful to Rocky. Not only is he a friend, but to be able to drive the cars, and I've always admired what he's done in racing. And then Ted Bryan, who also is a great friend, but also the opportunity to drive his fuel altered. You know, that's funny. Drag racing is absolutely all about the fans and all about the excitement. But one of the things I love most are the friendships that are built over the years. You know, it's more like family. You know, but the racing community is more like a sometimes dysfunctional family, but a family nonetheless.
Right. So now, when you got your license from Jerry in Bakersfield, what was the first nitro car you started driving after that?
After that was Ted Bryan's number 134 Fuel Coupe, which again, it is a 1934 Ford. It actually has the original rectangular frame rails in it, but of course, roll cage, perimeter roll cage, funny car cage, and it's a fuel altered with working doors. It's just it's really unique, very cool car, and that car is it can really be a handful. You know, it like any good fuel altered, it has a mind of its own, and it's going to go where it wants to go at times. But it's certainly, as a driver, I love the challenge and the excitement of it.
So what are all the cars you've drove throughout all your years now?
I'm sorry, say that again, Dave?
As throughout all of your years of racing, what are the cars you've driven?
All right, so I made some licensing passes in a jet dragster. I did not complete that, but maybe one day I'll go back and do a few more passes in a jet. So let's see. I've driven door car for Doug Foley a while back with his drag racing school. I rented the car, and I originally got my competition license with Doug Foley School on, of all days, September 11th, 2001, as all the insanity was happening in lower Manhattan with the World Trade Center. I was down at Acto Dragway getting my first competition license. So drove Doug Foley's door car. I drove a couple of dragsters in bracket racing, other guys' cars, you know, Jim Harrington's car, and then of course this Fiat Altered that I now own. I started out driving for Mike Gillespie, who was the original owner of that car, and when Mike had his cancer returned, you know, long story short, I had bought into the car, but before Mike passed away, he actually gave the car to me, which was pretty unbelievable, quite honestly. Without Mike giving me a shot in that 7-second alter, none of these other opportunities would have happened, you know. Some things that we're working on in the future, a good friend of mine, Paul Goldie, as most people know him, people recognize him as the guy who wears the beret, the hat, you know, the beret at the races. But Goldie's got a couple of funny cars, and we're working to try to get them back on the track. And you know, I'm gonna do a little driving for him at some point in the future. But other cars, like I said, besides the Super Pro door car and some of the Super Pro bracket dragsters, the Fiat Altered, Rocky's the Frantic Ford Nitro Funny car, and Ted's Fuel Coupe, and the A-Fuel Dragster. I guess that's pretty much the lineage of cars that I've driven. Plus, you know, raced a bunch of different street cars. My '70 Chevelle. I had a 1969 Camaro. It was a high 12-second car. You know, I think that's pretty much it. Unless I don't think I'm leaving anything out there.
Now, how did you meet Rocky Perone?
You know, Rocky used to run with the Northeast Timing Organization, or NITO. And I first met Rocky. He had his Big Time Memories car. I believe that was the car he was driving with that group for a while. And I remember seeing him at the funny car reunions and some of these other races. And, at one point, was it Beaver Springs? We were following each other on Facebook. I think at Beaver Springs, I finally walked up and said, Rock, I'm Joe. He said, hey, nice to meet you. And, we kind of slowly but surely struck up the friendship. I mean, I always admired what he did and his abilities, and we had a lot of success with NITO when I was running the Fiat there, where we won the NITO Comp Eliminator Championship in 2011 and runner-up in 2012. So we were winning a lot of races, so we had a lot of good publicity going on, and we just talking over the years, and then Bobby Toth recommended to Rocky that we talk about maybe me joining the team and helping work on the cars and maybe do a little driving since I do have that nitro license. And we talked, and said, yeah, let's make it happen. So that's kind of how that came about.
So, what's your fastest run time you've had with the Frantic Ford?
Just at Maple Grove. We ran a 677 at 203 with that car. So, the funny thing is, the Frantic Ford really is all about the show. It's about long, smoky burnouts and dry hops. I mean, Rocky did not build that car to make it a fast car, so to speak. But I'll tell you what, I think as we continue to pick away at it and play around with the tune-up, I bet you that thing will run 660s at 205, 210. But again, Rocky doesn't necessarily want that car to go any faster than that. So, which is fine with me. Quite honestly, I'm happy to jump into other cars. If I want to go fast, I'll go back in the A fuel car or try to go get my top fuel license if we put the money together. But the Frantic Ford is fun. The other thing that's cool about it, it's just one of those cars that has a rich history. With a bunch of great drivers having driven that car. So honestly, I feel honored to be able to have the opportunity to be behind the wheel of that thing.
Yeah. I wish more nostalgic, funny cars would bring back the long burnouts and dry hops.
Yeah. Well, it's unfortunate, I think, that what has happened in the I don't know what to call it. Maybe you would loosely call it the professional nostalgia funny car guys. The guys that are running at the March meet and run the Hot Rod Heritage Series. Hey, look, it's all about winning a race. It's all about going as fast as you can to beat the guy in the lane next to you. And look, that's what drag racing is, and I love that. But at the same time, the long burnouts and the dry hops and the show for the fans, I love that too. And to get the chance to do that, just in the fuel coupe, that's the same thing we do with the 134 fuel coupe. It's all about the long burnouts and the show, and it just there's just something to be said for that.
Yeah, a lot of the nostalgia funny car drivers I interview, they say, the cars are made like they used to be years ago when you could do that, and the tracks are different now.
That's true. But you can set up a car to do it, as is evidenced by the Frantic Ford. We do it, and let me tell you, we had, I tell you, we had at least 12 passes on a set of bearings before we even had to look at them and go, well, I guess we could change them. I mean, the car, it's not breaking parts anymore, knock on wood. It took a while to get there, but I think Rocky has gotten himself a really good tune-up on that car, and fortunately, because listen, stuff can go wrong, stuff can go wrong for anybody. So I'm not pointing fingers at anyone, but I'm saying that I think Rocky's done a great job of making that car be able to put on a show.
Right, and the fans love it.
Yeah, we get a great response. We really do, I mean, obviously, when I'm driving the car, I can't look up into the stands, but people come up afterwards, and they say some really nice things about how they enjoy it. That's great to hear, I think back to when I was a kid, watching guys like, Jungle Jim, the Snake, Mongoose, Gordy Bonin, got Raymond Beadle. I mean, just all those guys that were my funny car heroes back in the day. Tom Hoover in the Showtime car. I mean, the list goes on. There were so many cars. D.A. Santucci in the Black Magic car, and I just, I got so many great memories, and to be able to drive a funny car and do the dry hops and the long burnouts, it's, that right there makes me feel like a kid again, I'll tell you that.
The Chi-Town Hustler.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
That car was known for the long, smoky burnouts.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I remember, being a kid when the NHRA pros would come to town, or my dad would just take me down for a match race down there, and that was just cool. It was cool.
Yeah, that's what I used to see back in the day when I was a kid, because my dad started taking me in the 70s when I was like 4 or 5 years old. Yeah. So it was all
cool. What track was that? Where were you guys going to the races back in the day?
He was taking the US 30 drag strip, which is closed down. They've been closed for years now in Indiana.
Yep.
Excellent. And Great Lakes Dragway in Union Grove, Wisconsin, which is still open.
Cool.
Legendary Great Lakes Dragway, I should say.
There you go. Awesome.
I was telling Rocky, and I think when I did interview Rocky, I would love to see the Frantic Ford come up to Great Lakes Dragway someday. Yeah.
Well, you never know. Hey, if they book us in, man, I'm happy to make the trip. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, because they got in September. The day was headed last week, and they called the Time Machine Nationals every Labor Day weekend, where there's like old cars.
Cool. Excellent.
They usually only have 2 Nitro funny cars, though, which is Doc Holliday's Telstar and Boz Young's Down Under Thunder.
Oh, yeah. A couple of great cars. That's cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I think our next event, now I would have to double check. I think Rocky's driving the Super Camaro at the Maryland International Raceway on the 16th of September. And don't know whether I'm making passes in the Frankfurt that day or not. I'm not sure. I got to double check on the schedule. But I know I'll be down there with the team regardless. But and then we're looking to see if we can do a couple of exhibition runs with the funny cars, and hopefully with the 134 Fuel Coupe up at Maple Grove for the national event. We haven't confirmed that, so I'm probably an idiot for talking about it, but I'm hoping we're able to make that happen. We'll see. It's tough with the big show because they got to move the schedule along. You got to be on time for TV and all that. So, whether that works out or not remains to be seen. But we'll have a couple of, hopefully we'll have a couple of other events with funny cars this year before the year's out, besides down at MIR in Maryland.
Now, when you were growing up, did you have any drivers that inspired you?
A bunch. I really had a bunch that I really admired a lot. I liked, and there were, here's the thing, there were different things about different drivers that I admired. So if we're talking about funny car guys, I love the Snake's intensity. You know what I mean? I mean, he was just 100% pure competitor. And that's just awesome. I really admired Jungle Jim for not only the fact that, he could tune him, drive him, and knew how to put on a great show. But hey, look, who didn't love Jungle Pam too? And, I'm fortunate to know Pam, and she's just an awesome gal. I love her. She's just cool because she's just 100% herself. But other drivers I liked back in the day, I liked the Mongoose for the fact that he was just out there, going toe-to-toe with the Snake and didn't care, so to speak, that, he wanted to win, but, he was more about the show, I think. But like I mentioned before, D.A. Santucci, I thought he was just a cool dude. And, also, believe it or not, right down the road from where I grew up in New Providence, the day they knew them, but I always, because they were kind of like the hometown guys. I admired Don Garlitz for his ability to kind of do anything and everything, and his also his creativity. Don wasn't afraid to go out there, Big Daddy. He was out there innovating, trying new things. A lot of them didn't work, but a lot of them really did and were very successful. Big fan of Big Daddies from back in the day. Connie Coletta, big fan of Connie Coletta. A man I still admire to this day. Living legend. And again, a guy that was, pure competitor. I really also admired Scott Coletta. He was one of my favorite drivers in the 80s for sure. Those would be probably the top guys. I could probably rattle off a bunch of other guys too, but those are the guys back in the day that really inspired me, and some of my dad's friends from back in the day, stock and super stock racers, Ann and Walter Toes, and sadly Walter just passed away recently, but Walter always inspired me as one of those guys that really knew how to build an engine. Tony File, who I'm fortunate to call friend also, and Tony did engine work for me in the Fiat also, and Tony is one of the guys that I consider a hero. So a lot of different drivers that I admire, and all of them really for different reasons.
How about Shirley Chacha Muldowney?
Absolutely. One of the things I love about Shirley, and one of the things that inspires me about her is her, kind of similar to Jungle Pam, but in a different way. Shirley, had to be tough because she had those barriers to break down, and she really had to prove herself way more than any other driver. And she did so unapologetically, and she did so with, the fierce nature of a very real competitor. I've been lucky to meet Shirley on a couple of occasions, and I found her to be an absolutely wonderful person. And I admire her intensity, her tenacity, and her competitive spirit. Those are if I was to pick three things about Shirley that I admire the most, that would be it right there.
Did you ever meet Don Garlitz?
I have, briefly on a couple of occasions. I was hoping to meet him down at his museum when I was there back in the late 80s, but did not. Where I did get to meet him was at Englishtown. I was there at Englishtown, about half track, sitting in the stands when he had his famous blowover in the Swamp Rat 30, the monostrut car with the little. Oh no, that wasn't the monostrut car. That was the car with the canopy over the front wheels, where he had the big blowover. I think it was '86, and I bought a shirt with the blowover, and then when I finally met him at a match race, I brought the shirt and actually had him sign the shirt for the blowover, and that was pretty cool. And then Don came up to Island Dragway, where he made his first official 200-mile-an-hour run, and he was there for the reunion race a few years back, and I actually I happened. I don't remember whether I won or was runner-up that night when he was there, but that was pretty cool, and he was kind of hanging out when we were doing winner's circle pictures, and I got to talk with him for a little while then. Yeah, he's a unique guy. He is definitely, people who are innovators all are definitely their own characters, and I think that's a really cool thing.
You remember Chris the Greek Karamessinis?
Absolutely. Never met the Greek. Honestly, what I admire about the Greek is the fact that he's still out there doing it today.
Right.
I mean, how cool is that? What other sport can there be a guy that is a living legend in the sport, more than 80 years old and is out there driving a top fuel car? Listen, having driven an A fuel car, the fact that he's out there driving a top fuel car, I admire that. You know what I mean? That's pretty awesome.
Have you ever seen Arnie the Farmer Beswick?
You know, I never met him. I know I certainly am familiar with who he is and know the card.
Yeah, he's still going too.
Yeah. So, which is pretty cool. I mean, really, you know, I'm a fan of the sport in general. And what's funny is I could probably find ways to say, oh, well, you know, this modern driver was, you know, too busy for the fans or that one but honestly, I don't really, I don't have much bad to say about anything in general about the sport because of, you know, what it means to me. Yeah. You know, I mean, it's kind of, you know, it's a way to honor my dad's legacy. You know, I mean, sadly, he passed away last year. You know, it was something that we did as a family. It's something that I love to share with my kids. You know, they come to the races a lot. And you know, it's just, it's great to kind of continue on the family tradition, so to speak. And, you know, it may sound cliche or trite, but, you know, I really can't say how much the sport means to me because it's just, you know, something I've always known and loved.
Yeah, and the best thing about drag racing, you can actually get in the pits and meet the drivers. Not like circle track racing.
Yeah, that's true. You know, and it's funny. You know, I've been lucky enough to have a couple of occasions when I've had hot passes at NASCAR races and gotten to meet a couple of drivers and got to do the behind the scenes thing. Hell, I even got to sit on Kevin Harvick's pit box at Richmond, and that was cool. But I almost felt guilty being in there. I'm like, you know, why doesn't everybody get to come in here? You know, I mean, having grown up in drag racing, you're right. Nothing else like it, man. Nothing else like the access to the drivers and the teams.
Yeah. Then nowadays the kids are very important to go to drag racing because they're the future.
Oh, for sure. You know, one of the smart things I think NHRA has done is, you know, make kids 12 and under free. You know, most of the tracks that I've gone to, and I can't, you know, again, I haven't been to every race on the tour, but I've been to a bunch of them, and, you know, the ones that I've gone to, you know, having kids 12 and under get in for free is a smart deal because, you know, tickets are expensive enough. You know, it was a parent pays but wants to bring his kids and can bring a couple of kids for free, man, that's a good deal.
Yeah. Then a lot of drivers, they let the kids sit in the cars. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. We were down. I brought my son Brendan down for the 4-wide race last year, and we're walking through the alcohol pits, and Tom Fox Jr. lets Brendan sit in his car, and then we walk down a little later, and I'm talking to Dwayne Shields, and Dwayne's like, "Hey, you want to sit in the car?" And Brendan gets to sit in his car, and then we're over in the pro pits, and I happen to see I'm over at Colitta's, and Doug Colitta says to Brendan, "Hey, you want to sit in a top fuel car?" How about that? My son, you know, hell, I haven't even sat in a top fuel car, and my son gets to sit in a top fuel car, right? I mean, you know, it's you know, it's great. You know, we got pictures and all that other fun stuff, but you know, you gotta love the drivers that know how important the fans are. You know, it's just a great thing.
Well, maybe someday your day will come where you'll be behind the wheel of a top fuel car.
I believe it will. I believe it'll happen. You know, hopefully sooner rather than later. But honestly, you know, like anything I've had as a goal in my life, I'm going to keep working at it until I make it happen. You know, I mean, it may take a number of years. If it takes that, well then, so be it. And that's what it takes. But yeah, I'm going to make it happen. I'm going to make it happen. Good Lord willing, before my time is up on this planet. But it's only a matter of time. I like to think. You know.
You know, John Hale got to do it for 2 seasons.
Oh yeah, and you know what? Hale's another guy. You want to talk about one of the nicest guys I've ever met. You know, Hale is just awesome. He's just an all-around great guy. Loves the sport. and knows that other people love the sport and goes out there and does the right thing, man. He's just, you know, Hale's my hero, for God's sake. He's awesome.
Yeah, he told me the only reason he got out of the top fuel because he had his barbecue sauce business he had to tend to.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, and you know what? John's a smart guy, and he'll have the ability to jump back in a car at some point if that's what he wants to do. So, you know, and he does a damn good job with those nostalgia funny cars, you know? I mean, you know, we really, you know, let me tell you, those cars are certainly, have got to be fun to drive, you know? So, yeah, I know how much fun I have in the Frantic Ford, you know, going a second quicker, you know, it's just got to be that much better.
Yeah, I've had John 2 times on my show already.
Cool.
Then I had Jim Campbell, the one that's currently driving for Jim Dunn. He was on.
Cool, yeah. Jim's a nice guy. I've met him a couple of times, and actually met him through Jack Beckman. Him and Beckman are friends, and that's another guy. Let me tell you, Jack is another guy that absolutely loves the sport, and in the facts that he knows right off the top of his head of who drove what at what race where, you know, I love the sport. I just, my brain can't keep up with that.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I just, you know, yeah, some facts and figures, yeah, I know, but Jack is like a walking encyclopedia, man. He's just so knowledgeable. It's amazing.
Now, what are some of your favorite tracks to run on?
Oh, goodness. So there's a couple of tracks I really like, and multiple different reasons, right? So, always have a special place in my heart for Island Dragway. Island Dragway up in Great Meadows, New Jersey. My mom and my dad raced there. My dad worked the starting line there also when he wasn't racing for Ed and Kate Kowalik. My mother used to work in the timing tower with Hank Dinger, who is still announcing up there. As a matter of fact, when I race at Island Dragway and I stop by and I walk up in the tower and I go say hi to Hank, he always reminds me, hey, Joe, I was in your parents' apartment before you were born, you know. And now Ed and Kate Kowalik's granddaughter, Melissa, and her husband, Carl, are running the track now, doing a fantastic job. And just it's like family history at that place. So I love Island Dragway. You know, all right, the shutdown areas, it's a little short, but you know, I'll tell you what, my car, I get great EPs up there. Starting line, they always have done a great job preparing it when I've been running there. So that's just one track I love. Of course, Raceway Park, because of going there as a kid, watching all my heroes run there. And the first race, track I ever raced at was at Raceway Park. So, and then the other track in New Jersey is Atco, and that's where I got my competition license in 2001. So, that's kind of a special place. And then, Bakersfield, because Bakersfield is like, that's like holy ground as far as I'm concerned. The fact that, I got to race at 2 different hot rod reunions out there, twice with the fuel altered with, the 134 fuel coupe. And, last year I towed my Fiat from New Jersey all the way out to California to race in the Nostalgia 1 Eliminator class out there at the hot rod reunion, and went a couple of rounds and lost to the guy that wound up winning the race. But again, just the fact of racing at Bakersfield, as a guy from the East Coast, I always, admired all the guys running nitro out on the West Coast. So to be able to run out there is pretty cool. So those are kind of my favorites. Maple Grove is great too, honestly. Nice long shutdown area. Great track. So I would say those are probably my favorites.
Have you ever ran against the Jurassic Plastic Fuel Altered?
No, I have not. But Tom Moultrie with the Jurassic Plastic, those guys are cool. That running they're running a lot of fuel in that thing, man. I mean, that's it's basically, from what my understanding of it is, I haven't seen it. I have never even seen that car run in person. I would love to. But my understanding of it is it's basically a big show engine. And they're running a huge amount of fuel volume, as evidenced by those, 6-foot header flames out of that thing and the unbelievable times. But it's funny. I did talk to Mike Lewis about it, and Mike Lewis got to drive that car in an event, and ran that car into the fives. And Mike was thoroughly impressed with that car, and in my mind, that's saying a lot.
Yeah. So for like a weekend of drag racing, when you have a weekend coming up, what does it take for you to prepare for a weekend of drag racing?
It's funny. A couple of different things that I'll do ahead of time. No, it's not. There are times where before a race weekend, depending on what car I'm driving, I'll actually sit quietly when I get a couple of minutes and mentally do runs in the car in my head. For example, the Frantic Ford has a typical pull brake. The parachute's on the upper right-hand side, and the fuel shutoff's on the left-hand side. And then, of course, I've got the air shifters on it. The fuel coupe, the brake's on the right, but it's a push brake, not a pull brake, right? And then the fuel shutoff on that car is reaching forward and kind of on the right-hand side and not on the left. The fire system is in a different place on the fuel coupe, but the parachutes are upper right. I think I said that already. But so depending on what car I'm driving, I'll do some mental. I'll sit there and imagine doing runs in the car and kind of go through my routine. One of the things I learned from Frank Hawley's school when I took the Fiat down there was the importance of having a routine. So because I have such confidence in my routine, things can go wrong, and I don't get shaken. I'm one of those guys that, when I'm driving, I've got ice in my veins, man. There's really nothing that gets me excited or worried or anything like that. I just I know what I got to do, and I do it, for lack of a better way of putting it. So that's really the only that's my preparation I'll do before an event, unless there's social media and the marketing side of things is very important. So there's that stuff. But other than that, I want to make sure my fire suit doesn't smell bad. I'm sweating it and I'll wash it. There's really some basic things, but nothing. I don't have any voodoo. You know what I mean? Before a race event, kind of thing.
Right. So who do you get your fire suit made by?
I've got DJ Safety stuff. Ben Conan has been real good to me, and I think he makes a great product. I had a decent suit before that, and it was a lot. The DJ Safety suit is way more comfortable. Although the decent suit wasn't made for me, and the DJ Safety suit was. I sent. Ben's got the form where you fill out all your measurements or whatever, and it's been great. So. Yeah, Big Ben. I've got, DJ Safety fire suit, the funny car boots, the gloves. Since they don't do helmets anymore, I've got a Simpson Nitro Banded helmet with a fresh air system. And I bought from Brendan Murray, and Brendan Murray did a killer paint job on that thing, and pinstriping, and he's got my name on there in gold leaf and all that other fun stuff. And, that was really my first, I'd like to say my first real helmet I bought. That Nitro helmet.
Right. So let me ask you this fun little question now, Joe. If someone gave you $150 million and told you, Joe, build a new racetrack, where would you build it, and what kind of features would you have in it?
Wow. Okay. 150 million, huh? Well, what I've got in mind, we might need a little more than that, but well, listen. Honestly, I think there's a couple of tracks, that do it really well. You can't deny that Bruton Smith knows how to build a race facility. You look at places like Charlotte, Vegas, Sonoma. Having been to all three of those places, I haven't raced there yet, but I will. I haven't raced there yet. But those are amazing facilities. The other, so you could imagine, I would build something somewhat on par with Vegas or Charlotte. And I don't know about the 4-wide thing or not, but certainly I would want maybe the stands, as close to the track as can be safely. Okay, so I would want the stands close enough where the fans really, have a good view of the racing action. The thing that I think is kind of cool over at Norwalk is the way they have the vendors set up, and where it's kind of like an old Western-looking town. I don't know that I would go with the Western theme, but something along those lines, the way Norwalk has their the food and the concessions, I think is pretty cool. That's kind of a cool deal. One of the other things I like is at Englishtown, where they have the old towers set up at the top end by the finish line, and there's a deck on the second floor. So you can stand on that second floor deck and watch the whole race happen, and cars fly by at 330 mile an hour right next to you. And that's a pretty cool deal too. I would like to have that. So if I was building a track, I would want to have a tower up at the top end, and then again have some suites behind the starting line, and also have some up along the top row of the grandstand. Kind of like they have it at, that's also at Charlotte or at Indy. They have it that way too. But that's it. And I have to have an airstrip. So one of my bucket list items to get my pilot's license. Maybe that's one of the things I liked about Connie Collitta, the fact that he flies planes, him and Doug. And so that would be and John Hale for that matter. Maybe Hale would be able to fly in.
Yeah.
So there you go. How's that for a Joe's imaginary drag strip? If honestly, if I had $150 million, I wouldn't build a drag strip. I'd have a top fuel team and a funny car.
Now, throughout your drag racing career, have you ever had any accidents or near accidents?
Yeah, I have. Luckily, there's only been 2. But my dad used to say, if you can't be good, be spectacular. Accident number 1, first time I ever wrecked anything was, unfortunately, I say unfortunately because I really love David Dossett like a brother. I crashed his jet dragster. Long story, certainly it was some driver error. I think I probably was trying to do things a little too quickly. But that was interesting, the car, I spun the car around up at the top end and backing a dragster into a guardrail at 180 miles an hour was interesting. But fortunately I wasn't hurt. The car was, obviously, but, David been able to recover from the loss of equipment, and, I'm obviously trying to do things to help him as far as make up for the financial damage I caused on that. The other crash was in Ted's Fuel Altered up at Bakersfield. That was at the Hot Rod Reunion in 2015. There is footage of the race that Les Mayhew shot because it was at the California Hot Rod Reunion, and they've got a couple of different angles of the crash. That run was interesting because Ted had said to me previously, "Hey, look, if this car is, if it's getting out of shape, you really, if you lift, it'll straighten itself out a little bit." So, first round with the fuel altered, and I'm thinking, you know what, I want to go out there and make a statement here, and unfortunately, I guess I did. So I was racing Brett Henry in the Iron Mistress fuel altered. I got the whole shot on him, and the car was making a slow move towards the center line. I was in the left lane, Brett was in the right lane. So I couldn't see him, I could hear him, but I was out on him. So I've got the wheel cut a little bit to the left, but the car is it's not responding. It's just making this slow move to the center line. I hit high gear, coming up on half track, and I'm like, you know what? I'm in front of him, but I'm looking at those 8-mile cones, knowing I'm going to cross the center line. So I lift. Now that car has a working front suspension, and So what happened is, as I lifted, that clutch is locked up at that point. So the car leans to the right front because I had the wheel cut just ever so slightly to the left. And as it did that, it unloaded the left rear tire, and the ass end of that car spun around so fast. I cut the wheel back to the right, but two people told me, you know what? There was no saving that car at that point. One of those people was Larry Sutton, the starter from Lions Drive Strip. Larry was on the starting line. He said, look, I saw you try to save that car. He said it was due. He's like, there was nothing you could have done at that point. So basically I went nose first into the concrete wall at about 155 miles an hour. And boy, I'll tell you what, that was a hard hit. I had bruises from the Hans device seatbelt for a couple of weeks. But thankfully, so the car is laying on its side, it's spinning around, and I hear the engine RPMs come up, so I reach up and cut the fuel. And I'm thinking to myself, all right, I hope the car doesn't flip, because if it starts flipping, it's going to get ugly. It didn't, thankfully. So after I cut the fuel, I reached up, and as I'm spinning around on the side, I throw the parachute. And luckily, when the chute opened, it pulled the car back up on all four wheels, and I kind of slid to a stop. But went through the finish line and ran like I think I ran a 7-something at 90 miles an hour on my side before the chute opened, and the car got back up on all fours. But thankfully, Ted was, not, at least he didn't tell me he was bad. I mean, I don't think he was, honestly. Ted was great about it. He was like, look, I can fix the car. He's like, I'm just glad you're not hurt. Hey, look, we had the car back, and we brought it back out to the 2016 Hot Rod Reunion. Got to line up against Mike Boyd in the Winged Express in 2016. And, hell, I call that a triumphant return back after the wreck, So that was cool. And we ran the car this year at the Tucson Reunion. We were supposed to run at the Meltdown Drags, but we decided not. It was our choice not to run there. But then we just ran at the Dragway 42 nostalgia event, a rock and race event is what it was, at Dragway 42 in Ohio, just a couple of weeks ago. So thankfully a happy ending with the fuel tube, obviously. But so that's the story of thankfully out of the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of passes I've made, I've only, knock on wood, only had those two wrecks. So
yeah, that was good that you were able to just walk away with just bruises.
Yeah, listen, that fuel coupe is built real well, and so is the Smoky Red Jet Dragster. That was a very well-built car. So, I'm not going to, as much as I'd like to say, hell yeah, I'll drive anything. Well, you know what, I won't. I got to think about my safety, not just for me, but, hey, look, for my wife and my kids, So the cars that I get into them because I have confidence in them. And fortunately, when push came to shove, the cars didn't let me down,
Yeah, now David Dawson has that jet funny car now.
Yeah, he's doing great with the Black Pearl. David was actually out at Dragway 42 also, making runs, and, unfortunately, Dave lives in Colorado and I live in New Jersey, and I don't get to see him in person often. But we talk regularly, and he's done a great job of getting that car to come around. Really, for what that thing is, he does fantastic with it. And I tell you what, he knows how to put on a great show. The smoke show and the burner pop. He does a fantastic job.
Yeah. Now, Joe, if you were able to travel back in time and do something differently, what would you do?
God, good question. The only thing I think I would do differently is set myself up where I was actually making more money than I make right now. Honestly, all the mistakes I've made, I've learned from. One of the things my father taught me was, if you make a mistake, fine. Just try not to make the same mistake twice. Honestly, I feel like I'm a pretty lucky guy. Hey, look, I think any one of us could sit back and say, yeah, I wish my life was better because of whatever that is, right? honestly, I'm very thankful. You know, I've gotten to drive some pretty damn cool race cars. I've met some awesome people, and if I change something, then something that I have now may not be here. So other than, you know, maybe I wish I went to college instead of, you know, pursued a music and racing career, but that kind of made me who I am. So, you know, I don't think that I would change a thing, Dave, believe it or not. You know, I'm really thankful for what I've got. You know.
Yeah, some guys say that question. They say they wish they would have started driving earlier.
Yeah, well, look, of course, you know, if I didn't start really drag racing a lot until, you know, 10 years ago. But, you know, part of that was because I was really pursuing you know, as a guitar player, I was pursuing a music career. And that education about show business and about understanding entertainment has kind of shaped my love for doing all things nostalgia with the tryouts and understanding how important the fans are. So I think that's something that as I move forward and you know, as I work towards a professional career, I think that's going to be a tremendous asset that I'll bring to, you know, not only to a sponsor, but it'll be my contribution as I work to be a pro driver within NHRA. You know, something that I can bring to the table is someone that truly knows, loves, appreciates how important the fans are and trying to bring, you know, some show back to drag racing.
Right. So right now, do you have any hobbies outside of drag racing?
Well, there's a few things that I certainly love to do. You know, I still play guitar. I love to play guitar. So that's something. I'm actually learning piano a little bit too, kind of on my own, which is kind of fun. I'm lucky enough where I get to coach football. My younger son Brendan still playing football, so that's special time that I get to spend with him. You know, which is really, you know, that's something that's real important to me, is obviously time with my kids. And riding the Harley. You know, like I said, my dad passed away last year. He wasn't able to ride the bike for quite a while, so he's like, I'm going to sell the bike. I said, yeah, well, I'm buying it. So the other thing I really like to do, you know, if I'm not racing, and I've got some time, I like to take out. It's a 1990 Electra Glide Classic. So it's an older bike, but you know what? Still runs good, and you know, I certainly love to get out there on a Harley and ride.
That's cool. So, do you have a favorite vacation spot, Joe?
Well, funny. My wife and I just went to Key West for our anniversary. And I had never been there before, and that's why we went, is because, you know, we had never been there before, and I wanted to surprise her. And that was awesome. Key West was awesome. We got engaged in Myrtle Beach, so Myrtle Beach is kind of a special place, too. But, you know, anywhere where there's a beach, you know what I mean? Like, if I'm on vacation, man, I want to be sitting by the ocean somewhere.
Yeah, right now you don't want to be in Florida, though.
No, you know, it's ironic because, I mean, literally, I was in Key West, man, like 2 weeks ago, and now I'm thinking, good Lord, I hope Key West is still there when I try to go back, you know, whatever that is.
Yeah, I just got a notification on my phone saying Orlando, Florida hurricane watch.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I've got a bunch of friends down there, and you know, and some family, too, so, yeah, my thoughts and prayers are with them.
Yeah.
You know, so hopefully nobody gets hurt or worse. You know, I hope the best for them folks down there.
Yeah, we'll pray for them all.
Oh yeah.
So what's your favorite food, Joe?
Well, if we're going to go with a classification, I would probably say Italian. But I love a good steak too. So you know, I can't deny that, but yeah, my wife is an awesome cook, and she learned a lot of her cooking skills from her Aunt Pia from from Naples, so I'm a big fan of Italian food.
Favorite beverage of choice?
Oh goodness. Hey, I absolutely love a nice cold beer, although sipping on a nice glass of bourbon ain't bad either. If we're talking alcoholic beverages, if we're talking non-alcoholic beverages, good old-fashioned sweet tea is all right, even though I know that's typically what you would consider a southern thing, but man, they do a lot of things right down there, and sweet tea is one of them.
So is your wife involved when you drag race?
Not too much. It's funny. The drag racing is really my thing. I mean, she's been great, very understanding and supportive. Obviously, with the crashes, she doesn't. That's just something that's a fear of hers, and which is understandable. And certainly I get it. But she's been great about supporting me. Sometimes even when she's uncomfortable with it. She's an awesome cheerleading coach, believe it or not, and that's something that she really enjoys. So, I like to make sure she gets to go down to Disney for the cheer competitions and things like that, and that's kind of more her thing. But yeah, she's been out to races a bunch of times. She's been there for a couple of wins, and no, she was not there. She was not there when we won the championship. But she's been there for a couple of race wins and a couple of events, and I think when I finally get my act together and find a way to buy a motorhome, I think she'll be able to come there more often.
Now, Joe, since you said you play guitar, what's your favorite music?
It's funny. That's a tough question because I'm going to tell you I love everything from jazz to like Van Halen, right on to Metallica, Slayer, Five Finger Death Punch. Although I don't listen to that stuff as much. If you were to say, actually, what's in my CD player in the car right now is King's X, Gretchen Goes to Nebraska. That's one of my favorite CDs. I'm a big King's X fan. A lot of folks don't even know who they are, but top 5 bands of all time, King's X would be right up there. As a guy that, in his 40s, and a guitar player, you can't deny Eddie Van Halen, but Randy Rhoads was also great, but so I don't know if that kind of, I also like Wes Montgomery's guest artist, from the 60s, so, I kind of have a very eclectic taste in music, because I can appreciate all of it, quite honestly.
How about Candy Striper Death Orgy?
Oh, right on, yeah, of course. Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
You gotta love Eric, man. He loves drag racing.
Oh, yeah, Eric was just down at the Island Dragway Funny Car Throwdown. He got a couple of cool shots, cool pictures, actually, when I was racing Bruce Morrison at that event. But yeah, it was good to, I only got to talk to Eric briefly at that event. I barely got to say hello to him, but hell yeah, man. Hell yeah.
Yeah, I had him do an interview on my show, too.
Cool.
Talked about his band, and we talked about drag racing.
Yeah, no, Eric's a cool dude, and definitely a big racing fan. But Candy Striper Death Orgy, those guys they certainly rock. You know what I mean? They definitely kick ass.
Yeah. So, what's been your fondest memory in your career of drag racing?
There are a lot. There really are a lot. There really are two moments. That if I was, if you're, sticks gun to my head, you're like, all right. If you said pick one, it was when I got to have and of course it was winning the championship with Nito with my dad there, and then later being at the banquet and accepting the big trophy and the check and all that fun stuff with my dad and Mark and Johnny and Bruce and all the guys that were. I think Fast Eddie was there too. All the guys who were part of the team that made the championship happen with my dad. My wife was there at that event at the banquet, But it was just a great moment with me and my dad. And then the second one would have to be this past year at Bakersfield, driving the fuel coupe, lining up with the Winged Express. I loved that car from when I was a kid, and to get to be in the other lane again, Mike, obviously Mike Boyd is driving it, not Wild Willie anymore, God rest his soul, but that was definitely one of the coolest moments, getting a chance to run a fuel altered at Bakersfield and line up with the Winged Express.
Now, if people want to follow you, like see where the Coops racing at or the Frantic 4, what's the best way they can follow you online?
Honestly, I would just say find me on Facebook, man. You can't miss it because I've got a picture of my Fiat Altered there with the Right to Breathe team, and of course, that's probably the easiest way. It's just you just send me a friend request on Facebook, and I'm as long as I look at everybody that I accept. So as long as you don't look like you've got 3 friends and you got a picture of you look like a teenage girl and you have 3 friends and it's an obvious hack. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to accept that, but, if you're an obvious racing fan, I'm not going to turn you away.
So you have any last words for all the fans out there, Joe?
You know what? I just, I would encourage everybody to get out to the track and support your local racetrack, as much as possible. Because if those racetracks go away, what happens to the sport? And just, I really want folks to know how much I appreciate, when people come out and support their local track and get to see folks at the races. So that'd be the only thing I would say. And Dave, thanks, man. I really enjoyed being part of your show.
And as far as the events coming up, you only got one event so far coming up, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, we're getting towards the end of the season, so. Hey, come see me at Maryland International Raceway in a couple of weeks on Saturday the 16th. I guess that's a week from tomorrow, right? So if you're in the area at MIR, man, we'll be down there with Rocky's team, and or come see me at Maple Grove at the national event because Right to Breathe, we are doing a free asthma and COPD screening. So come see me at Maple Grove. I'm going to be set up right in the midway. We'll have the C out there on display. Maybe pretty sure the fuel coupe will be there, and Rocky's funny cars will be there. So if you don't get down to Maryland International Raceway, come see me at Maple Grove, the 22nd, 23rd, and 24th for the NHRA National event. I'll be right there in the midway with everybody there.
Are you going to start the cars up there?
Probably will. I know we'll at the very least we'll be able to fire them up. I would love to say we're making exhibition runs. I just don't know that yet. I can't promise that because I really don't know. But the cars will be there, and we'll certainly be able to fire them up at the pit. But like I said, we'll be there with Right to Breathe in the midway, providing free lung health screenings for anybody that wants them.
Yeah, you start them up, do some cackling, and let everyone breathe in some nitromethane. It'll be fun.
Absolutely.
Get the eyes all teared up and everything.
Gotta love it, man. Absolutely.
Yes, sir. Well, I want to thank you so much for your time for the interview, Joe.
You got it, Dave. Thanks so much, man.
And I wish you best of luck on the rest of the racing season.
Thanks, man. And, I hope to see you out at the races sometime.
Yeah, hopefully we'll get you up this way sometime.
Heck yeah.
All right, you have a good night, Joe.
Thanks, you too, man. See ya.
Bye-bye.